Shalom, 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 Israel. Hopefully, I can be heard. I want to wish everyone a Pesach, happy Pesach. Those of you getting ready to celebrate Pesach, and also even those getting ready to celebrate the Shabbat. May Yah bless you. May Yah keep you. I pray that the Most High bless your house for honoring His commandments and trying to be obedient to His word. Uh, Tonight, we got a lot of information to go over, so we're going to get to it. I hope this is being recorded. You never know till you're done with this technology. But tonight, we're going to go over the fables of Easter and Resurrection Sunday. The fables of Easter and Resurrection Sunday. And before we begin, this is not a dig. This is not to chop heads off. We don't do that. The Torah is about restoring life to our brothers and sisters. The Torah keeps us alive, so we're not trying to belittle or just destroy our Christian family and friends. Because if not for the grace of the Most High, we still would be steeped in idol worship, following behind pagans. So this is not a class to attack a church, attack a preacher at all, because we don't do that here. The scriptures tell us we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against powers, against spiritual wickedness in high places. So that's what we're dealing with. When we're dealing with the fables of Easter and Resurrection Sunday, we're attacking the spirit of the Antichrist. We're not attacking our brothers and sisters inside the Christian church. With that being said, I want to put my disclaimer out there. If you esteem the words of a man, your pastor, your bishop, your deacon, your first lady, if you esteem their words over the words of the Bible, then this broadcast may not be for you. If you find it boring to read scriptures and to go over forgotten histories, this class may be boring to you. If you feel the need to be entertained with a bunch of hooping and hollering and a bunch of antics, this may not be the class for you. But if you really want to seek truth, if you really want to live a life that's pleasing to the Messiah, which in turn please the Most High, then this broadcast is for you. So what will you learn tonight by watching this broadcast? Tonight you will learn 3 key points that we want to hit on. The first thing you're going to learn is Easter is not Passover. Easter is not Passover. Passover is not Easter. Growing up inside the churches, those 2 words became synonymous. But we're going to show you tonight that Easter is not Passover. Also, you're going to learn that the Messiah of Israel, the line of Judah, the only begotten Son of the Most High, he did not resurrect early Sunday morning. And the last one, but certainly not least, we're going to give you concrete information that you can research yourself to verify all the trappings of the Easter customs, the traditions we were brought up with. All the customs are pagan. There's no way around it. There's no sugarcoating at all. Everything we learned about Easter is handed to us from the pagans. And before I get into it, I often hear preachers give the excuse or try to make the people feel better. And they say, yeah, we know it's not about the eggs. We know it's not about the tree. Or I had one preacher tell me, well, you don't think that we're worshiping these things like the pagans did. We're not worshiping the tree. We're not worshiping the eggs. We're not worshiping Ashtar. Well, to that I say, for all my married folks out there, if you found out that your spouse was keeping condoms inside their wallet, purse, car, or whatever, and they told you, yeah, I know what people use them for, but I don't use them that way, would you be okay with that? If you found your mate holding on to condoms and they tell you, I'm not using them like they're supposed to be used, I use them for this purpose, would you be okay with that? because that's what the Christian preachers are telling us. They have their education and they know all about it. They'll tell you everything I'm going to tell you. A lot of these preachers will tell you, they will verify it, but then they put the disclaimer in there. But we're not doing what the pagans are doing, and we're going to show you with scripture. We have a commandment to not follow the heathens, to do not imitate the heathens in one iota. So let's get into this, and hopefully it'll make sense. Hopefully you will learn something, because our goal is not to destroy anybody. Our goal is to bring all our family and friends away from the paganisms that we learned from Christianity. So in 2 Timothy 4:4, our uncle Shaul, he tells us that in the last days, people are going to turn their ears away from the truth, and they're going to be stuck on fables. They're going to be stuck on fables. So that's what we're going to show you tonight. If you've never heard it before, we're going to show you how the Easter and the resurrection celebration that many people will partake on this coming Sunday, it's a fable. It's a fable. There's no way around that. So before we get into the nuts and bolts of this class, we have to take a look at history, because when we go to Revelations 18:2, we find that the Babylon the Great has finally fallen. Babylon the Great does not fall until Revelations 18:2. So if Babylon doesn't fall until the end of time, or the end of our time, a thinking man would say, well, where is Babylon? Because if you pull up a current map of the world, you won't find a country at all labeled Babylon. Now, those of us in the who did the research, we know that the modern day Iraq is Babylon. It's the physical location of ancient Babylon. So, okay, Iraq is the ancient Babylon. Well, back when Bush Sr. was in office, he showed the world in less than 30 days that Iraq was not a great nation. Iraq was no great power. Bush Sr. marched in there, and I believe we watched most of that war on TV. You know, the U.S. went in there with some allies, and the country of Iraq was pretty much destroyed within, I say, maybe 2, 3 weeks. So Iraq is the physical, geographical location of ancient Babylon, but Iraq is no world power. So when Revelation says Babylon the Great has finally fallen, what is that prophet or that angel's talking about? Well, the angel is talking about the Babylonian system. The Babylonian system doesn't fall until the end of our age. And one of the greatest customs from Babylon is what most of the Sunday Christians are going to be practicing on this coming Sunday. They're going to be practicing a custom from Babylon. So that's why the world is known as Babylon. Babylon is just not one particular nation. Babylon is a system that the whole world, in some form or fashion, each country, all the way to Japan, they have adopted customs of Babylon. So let's get into the specifics. We're going to, the first one we're going to get out the way real quick is the eggs. The eggs and the bunny is the easiest thing to present. So I'm going to share my screen here, and I'm just going to show you the document that I'm reading from. And this document you can get online as a free PDF, or you can just view it as a web page. And this document that I'm about to pull up, it has valuable information. It exposes everything that the Roman Catholic Church pretty much stole from Babylon. So this is the document. Hopefully my internet connection is working well. This is the document I'm going to be reading from. This is the only two sources you would need for this class. This is a free PDF. You could download it online. It's a small file, or you could just view it as a HTML as a web page. But this is the two Babylons, or the papal worship, proved to be the worship of Nimrod and his wife. And you can see how old this document is. You can see how old this is. The author's name is Alexander Hislop. Alexander Hislop, and I believe he is indeed a Roman. So if you have access to the web, you can download this to your phone. It's a small file. Here's the author here, Alexander Hislop, and he pretty much threw Rome under the bus. He lifted the skirt up on Rome and showed us that everything Rome is doing, they stole from Babylon. And the Easter celebration is part of that. So these are two of the covers you can find online. But again, this is the title. And I'm going to read just a few excerpts from this document. And I advise you, if you're a student of the word, this is one to add to your library. So let's address these eggs. Let's address these eggs. And this chapter I'm reading, this chapter, I believe is chapter 3, and it's all about Easter. Let me go to the table of contents. Chapter 3 has all the festivals. You can see it here. So you go to chapter 3, and it has all the festivals, and I'm going to be reading from Easter. Again, this is Two Babylons by Alexander Hislop. Two Babylons. So this is about the eggs, how we got this egg in our celebration. It says, the hot cross buns are not now offered, but eaten on the festival of Astarte. So if you go into bakeries now, especially Jewish bakeries, you'll see they bake these like honey bun looking things with crosses in them. They got that from Babylon. It says, but this leaves no doubt as to whence they have been derived. The origin of the Pesach egg is just as clear. The ancient Druids bore an egg as the sacred emblem of their order. In the Diasaka, or the mysteries of Bacchus, as celebrated in Athens, one part of the nocturnal ceremony consisted of the consecration of an egg. The Hindu fables celebrate their mundane egg as of a golden color. The people of Japan make their sacred egg to have been brazen. In China, at this hour, dyed or painted eggs are used on sacred festivals, even as in this country. In ancient times, eggs were used in the religious rites of the Egyptians and the Greeks, and were hung up for mystic purposes in their temples. From Egypt, these sacred eggs can be distinctly traced to the banks of the Euphrates. The classic poets are full of the fable of the mystic egg of the Babylonians, and thus its tale is told by Hyginus, the Egyptian, the learned keeper of the Palatine Library at Rome in the time of Augustus, who was skilled in all the wisdom of his native country. This is what this man says. An egg of wondrous size is said to have fallen from heaven into the river Euphrates. The fishes rolled it to the bank, where the doves, having settled upon it and hatched it, out came Venus, who afterwards was called the Syrian goddess, that is, Astarte. Hence, the egg became one of the symbols of Astarte, or Easter. And accordingly, in Cyprus, one of the chosen seats of the worship of Venus, or Astarte, the egg of wondrous size was represented on a grand scale. The occult meaning of this mystic egg of Astarte, in one of its aspects, for it had a twofold significance, had reference to the ark during the time of the flood, in which the whole human race were shut up as the chick is enclosed in the egg before it is hatched. Now the Romish church adopted this mystic egg of Astarte and consecrated it as a symbol of Christ's resurrection. So these pagans are trying to say, just like Noah and his sons, or the rest of the world that was left of it, were encapsulated inside the ark, that's what the egg represents. So they developed a fable that their goddess Astarte was hatched from an egg that landed in the Euphrates River. The Babylonians started this fable. So anytime you let your children, your grandchildren participate in Easter egg hunts, buy the Easter baskets, the Easter candy, you are partaking in a Babylonian worship. You are partaking in Babylonian customs. We are commanded as followers of Yeshua, as followers of the true Christ, we are commanded to learn not the way of the heathens. So I don't really think we need much more on the egg. The egg has nothing to do with the Messiah. The egg has nothing to do with Israel. So I'm going to read another passage from this same document, and I'm going to let you know who the Roman Catholic Christians really worship for April. The Romans have a god for every day of the month. The Romans have a god for every day of the week. Many of their gods they just adopted from Babylon. And this writer, this author, is proving it with research. So this is who the month of April is for. He says, if Baal was thus worshipped in Britain, it would be not difficult to believe that his consort, Astarte, was also adored by our ancestors, and that from Astarte, whose name in Nivea was Ishtar, the religious solemnities of April, as now practiced, are called by the name of Easter. So the month of April to the Romans is dedicated to Ishtar, or dedicated to Ishtar. That's who the Christian Church of Rome is worshiping. When you are reading ancient history and you come across the word Christian, you have to read, you have to get the backstory to get the context of the word Christian. When you hear the word Christian, there's three groups of Christians in antiquity. Three groups of Christians in antiquity. The first group of Christians were the Hebrew Israelites who believed on the Messiah. They were the first group of Christians. A second group arose when Constantine, the so-called Great, adopted Christianity as the Roman religion. So once Constantine made a loose form of the Hebrew customs, the official doctrine or religion of Rome, we had a second group of Christians. So most of your ancient documents, when they refer to Christians or the church, it's referring to Roman Catholic Christians. The third and final set of Christians became known as Protestants. After Martin Luther, wrote his edict against the popes for accepting money for sins, Martin Luther started a Protestant movement that protested against the mother church. So everybody who broke away from the mother church, which was the Roman Catholic Church, they became known as Protestants. But the Protestants did not forsake the Babylonian customs already steeped inside the Roman Catholic Church. So I just wanted to put that out there. You got to pay attention when you hear the word Christian. So already off the bat, we learned that the egg of Easter comes from Babylon. They believe their goddess Astar, Venus, landed in the river Euphrates, and she was hatched by some doves. Fable. We learned that the month of April for the Romans, they are celebrating not the Messiah, not the Lamb or Lion of Judah, but they're worshiping Astarte, or Ishtar for April. Now, let's go over, can you find resurrection, resurrection day, resurrection service? Can you find any holy day mentioned in the Bible called Resurrection Day? Because many churches are going to be celebrating a new custom that they termed or made up Resurrection Sunday. And Resurrection Sunday is nowhere in the Bible. If it's not in the Bible, the prophets didn't keep it, Christ didn't keep it, then where do you get it from? And I'm about to read to you another excerpt from this document. The old Roman Catholic Church, when they started, they didn't even honor a Resurrection Sunday. So let's get it here. So this is another footnote from the same document. It says, Geisler, speaking of the Eastern Church in the 2nd century, in regard to the Pesach observances, says, in it, meaning the Pesach festivals, in commemoration of the death of Christ, they, the Eastern Christians, eat unleavened bread, probably like the Jews, 8 days throughout. There is no trace of a yearly festival of a resurrection among them, for this was kept every Sunday. So the Catholic Church, when they were starting off, they didn't even celebrate a resurrection service. They copied off the Jews and ate unleavened bread. They kept every Sunday, SUN day, as Resurrection Day. But again, this document, Two Babylons, lets you know that their resurrection is not for the Messiah, not for the line of Judah. I just want to point out that you got these churches coming up with a feast or a holy day for them called Resurrection Sunday. You're going to hear the preacher, he's going to perform. The tomb is empty. He got up. Thank God he got up. All that entertaining, it sounds good, it's itching to the ear, but it's a fable. To get the full list of the authorized, the holy feast days of the Most High, turn your Bibles to Leviticus chapter 23. If you're not familiar with the Old Testament, go to Leviticus 23, and all the holy days that were ordained by the Most High are listed in order. Resurrection Sunday is not one of them. We just showed you here from this document, not even the early Roman Catholic Church even honored a Resurrection Sunday. They mimicked off the Jews and ate unleavened bread. So let's get deeper into it. The next fable we have to address is simple mathematics. Tonight is Friday. The Roman Catholic Church has told the world this is Good Friday. Today for them is Good Friday. And Sunday, they're celebrating Easter, which is supposed to be a form of Passover. But the Messiah said the sign that he was going to return, the only sign I'm going to give you people, I will be in the belly of the earth 3 days and 3 nights. 3 days and 3 nights. You can look that up. He told them, I'm going to be in the belly of the earth 3 days and 3 nights. So let's count out together if we can get 3 days and 3 nights from tonight, which is Friday, all the way to Sunday. So today is Good Friday. We can't count the daylight hours because he still was breathing. He was on the cross. So sometime between 3 p.m. and sunset on a Friday, they say, the Messiah gave up the ghost. He died. So that means Friday is his first night in the grave. Saturday during the daylight hours will be his first day in the grave. Saturday night will be his second night in the grave. They say he rose early Sunday morning. Well, you can't count any of Sunday. because according to the Christian doctrine, he rose early Sunday morning. So the Messiah that Romans gave us, he's been in the grave Friday night, Saturday during the day, and Saturday night. He's only been in the grave 2 nights and 1 day. 2 nights and 1 day doesn't equal 3 days and 1 night, 3 days and 3 nights. So nowhere can you can't round that off. You can't round that off. So another fable of Easter is 3 days and 3 nights. You can't get 3 days and 3 nights from today, Friday, to Sunday. The math doesn't add up. So that's another fable. If you figure the math out, please drop a comment, send an email to touragroup12@gmail.com. If you can get 3 days and 3 nights from Friday to Sunday, please let us know and show it to us, please. So that's another fable, the 3 days and 3 nights. So now let's get into some scriptures, and we're going to show you how Easter and Passover is not the same thing. Easter and Passover is not the same thing. The Romans knew it and the Hebrews knew it. Easter and Passover is not the same festival. So this is Acts 12. It says, now about that time Herod the king stretched forth his hands to vex certain of the church, and he killed James the brother of John with the sword. And because he saw it pleased the Jews, he proceeded further to take Peter also. These were the days of unleavened bread. So Herod has killed James, and now he has Peter in jail. This was the time of unleavened bread. Unleavened bread is a Hebrew festival that lasts 7 days. So let's drop down to verse let's drop down to verse 4. And it says, and when he had apprehended him, he put him in prison and delivered him to 4 quaternions of soldiers to keep him, intending after Easter to bring him forth to the people. Now, many people think this Easter is a mistranslation of Passover, but it's not. It's not. So again, this is a Hebrew book or Hebraic book. It's based on Hebraic culture. It's based on Hebraic customs. So he says he was going to hold him after Easter. Well, the verse 3 already told us that unleavened bread has started. So when you go back to Leviticus chapter 23, you'll get the order of the feast. The order of the feast is Passover, then unleavened bread. So if the days of unleavened bread have already started, Passover is gone. So when it mentions Easter here, it can't be talking about Passover. Herod is respecting the Roman celebration of Easter. Because think about it. Let's drop the religion. Why would Herod respect a Hebrew festival and wait till after Easter if this is Hebraic? After he already saw when he killed James, it pleased the Jews. When he killed James, it pleased the Jews. So he got the Jews' support, and he's going to wait till after Easter to kill Peter. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. Herod is following Rome and is under the protection of Rome. He's honoring Roman days, not Hebrew days. Because think about it. Let's drop religion. They killed Messiah on Passover. They killed Messiah on Passover. So why would they have an issue with killing Peter during the Feast of Unleavened Bread? This is not Passover here, family. This is Herod respecting the Roman celebration of Easter. I hope that makes sense. So this is just another example of how Easter is not Passover. Easter is not Passover. Let's get another example. Let's go back to the document here. I'm going to read to you another excerpt that verifies that Passover is not Easter. It says, Socrates, the ancient ecclesiastical historian, after a lengthy account of the different ways in which Easter was observed in different countries in his time, i.e., the 5th century, sums up in these words. Thus much already laid down may seem a sufficient treatise to prove that the celebration of the feast of Easter began everywhere more of custom than by any commandment, either of Christ or any apostle. So Socrates is saying this custom, this festival of Easter, started popping up everywhere out of custom. Monkey see, monkey do. Because you can't find any commandment by the Messiah or any of the apostles to keep this feast. This is Socrates in the 5th century. He goes on to say, um, everyone knows that the name of Easter, used in our translation of Acts 12:4, refers not to any Christian festival, but to the Jewish Passover. So he has it twisted. This is one of the few places in our version where the translators show an undue bias. So I read that to make you aware of when you're reading a non-Hebraic resource, you have to filter it through the Hebraic understanding. Socrates is saying that Acts 12 that we just read, Socrates is saying Acts 12:4 is them being biased, and this is referring to Passover. But again, if Socrates had took the time to understand the Hebrew customs, he would have knew that Easter here can't refer to Passover if the verse before that says, then were the days of unleavened bread. Then were the days of unleavened bread. They've already killed James. Now Peter was taken during the days of unleavened bread. So Socrates, again, he's one of their valued historians, but he's not a Hebrew. If it's not a Hebrew, you have to filter it. I hope you can see Easter is not Passover. So let's continue with this example here. Um, he says that festival agreed originally with the same time of the Jewish Passover, when Christ was crucified, a period in which, in the days of Tertullian, at the end of the 2nd century, was believed to have been the 23rd of March. Socrates just said that the original festival of Easter agreed and lined up with the Jewish Passover. The Passover occurred on March the 23rd. I'll read it again. That festival agreed originally with the time of the Jewish Passover when Christ was crucified, a period which, in the days of Tertullian, at the end of the 2nd century, was believed to have been the 23rd of March. He continues, that festival was not idolatrous, and it was preceded. And it was preceded by no Lent. It ought to be known, said Cassianus, the monk of Marsalis, writing in the 5th century and contrasting the primitive church with the church in his day, that the observance of the 40 days had no existence. So long as the perfection of that primitive church remained inviolate, whence then came this observance? The 40 days abstinence of Lent was directly borrowed from the worshippers of the Babylonian goddess. Rome took everything from Babylon. Easter and Passover is not the same thing, but originally the Roman Christians just copied and followed the Jews, and they kept their Easter during the time the Jews or the Israelites were keeping Passover. They're not the same customs. So let's get into how we point out that the Messiah, the Lion of Judah, did not resurrect on Sunday. The Lion of Judah did not resurrect on a Sunday, because that's the whole premise of Easter Sunday. He got up. The tomb was empty. He got up. But we're going to show you that he did not resurrect on Sunday. Making sure I got everything I want here. All right, so let's show you how he didn't resurrect on Sunday. Let's go to the four Gospels. We start in Matthew. This is Fables of Easter and Resurrection Sunday. Matthew 28, and we'll start at verse 1. It says, in the end of the Sabbath, as it began to dawn toward the first day of the week, came Mary Magdalene and the other Mary to see the sepulchre. And behold, there was a great earthquake, for the angel of Yah descended from heaven and came and rolled back the stone from the door and sat upon it. So the angel is here. Drop down, verse 6. He is not here, for he is risen, as he said. Come see the place where Yeshua lay. So the two Marys are at the tomb. The angels meet them. Christ is already gone. But the part we want to focus on, in the end of the Sabbath, it began to dawn. Began to dawn means it's not light yet. It's starting to get light, but it's not light yet. Let's get another one from the other gospel. Let's go to Mark 16. Let's go to Mark 16. Christ did not resurrect on a Sunday. Mark 16. Mark 16. And when the Sabbath was past, Mary Magdalene and the Mary, the mother of James and Salome, had bought sweet spices that they might come and anoint him. And very early in the morning, the first day of the week, they came upon the sepulchre at the rising of the sun. So this is getting us a little closer. The rising of the sun. And they said among themselves, who shall roll us away the stone from the door of the sepulchre? And when they looked, they saw that the stone was rolled away, for it was very great. And entering into the sepulchre, they saw a young man sitting on the right side, clothed in a long white garment, and they were frightened. So you know the story. Be not afraid, he's not here. What we need to focus on at the rising of the sun. Yeshua was already gone before sunrise. Yeshua was already gone before sunrise. We're going to get another witness. We're going to get another witness. Let's go to Luke. Let's go to Luke 24. Messiah didn't resurrect on a Sunday. I'm sorry, Luke 24. Luke 24. Now, upon the first day of the week, very early in the morning, they came unto the sepulchre, bringing the spices which they had prepared, and certain others. So again, we find in another version of the story is very early in the morning. It's very early in the morning, right? Let's get the last witness. Let's get the last gospel. Let's get John. Let's get John, and we're going to get John 20. We're trying to see if the Messiah resurrected on Sunday morning. John 20 and verse 1. The first day of the week comes Mary Magdalene early, when it was yet dark, unto the sepulchre. So now we get more details in black and white. All of the four accounts bear record that they got to the tomb before sunrise. It was still dark. If it's dark, you don't have a day. If it's dark, a new day has not started. Why would you say that? Let's go back to the beginning. Let's go back to the beginning. Genesis 1. Genesis 1, verse 3. And Yah said, let there be light, and there was light. And Yah saw the light that it was good, and Yah divided the light from the darkness. Verse 5. Yah called the light day, and the darkness night. Yah called the light day, and the darkness night. If you don't have light, you don't have a day. So Yeshua did not resurrect on a Sunday. He resurrected towards the end of our Shabbat. We don't follow the planetarian weekdays like Babylon. The weekdays are borrowed from Babylon. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, so on and so forth. They're borrowed from Babylon. The Israelites, we don't borrow the Babylonian weekdays. Our seventh day is Shabbat. So the Most High resurrected before the start of the next day. It was yet dark. If it was yet dark, family, you don't have a new day. Because we just showed you in Genesis 1 and 5, Yah called the light day. So if you don't have light here, you don't have a day. Also, answer this question, family. If you come to my house at 8 p.m. and I'm not home, would you be correct to say, oh, Brother Obadiah left at 8 p.m.? No. You don't know what time I left. I could have left at 7:59, 7:58, 7:57. I could have left at 7:30. I could have left at 6. Just because you got there and I'm gone, you don't know what time I left. So the sisters got to the tomb. It was dark, very early. You don't know what time he left. But one thing we do know, Yeshua was out the tomb before sunlight. If Yeshua is out the tomb before sunlight, we don't have Sunday. We're still in the Hebrew, towards the end of the Hebrew Shabbat, or towards the end of the Hebrew Sabbath. So now we went over 3 fables already. The Easter egg is a fable from Babylon. Their goddess Venus landed in the river Euphrates. Dove sat, fish rolled it to the beach. Dove sat on the egg. Out hatched Venus or Ishtar or Diana. Fable. Yeshua resurrected on Sunday morning. Fable. He died on Good Friday and rose early Sunday morning. Fable. You can use pagan customs as long as you're giving honor to the Messiah. Fable. Fable. You cannot borrow anything from the pagans and make it holy. You cannot borrow anything from the pagans and make it holy. So I hope we gave you enough evidence for you to see that Easter and Resurrection Sunday are all based on fables. Easter and Resurrection Sunday are all based on fables. Again, any more is beating a dead horse. Any more is beating a dead horse. The last point I'm gonna make is for the Christian apologetics, for the preachers to turn a holy day into something other than what it was meant for, is adding to the book. It's blasphemy. I'm going to go here. I'm not going to read them all, but just so those who may have never seen them before, you can have reference to it. Because again, this is for my brothers and sisters inside the Christian church who are looking for truth. Leviticus 23 gives us all the feast days of the Most High. These are all the feast days ordained. Family, brothers and sisters, you will not find Resurrection Sunday whatsoever. You will not find Resurrection Sunday whatsoever. You will not find Resurrection Sunday whatsoever. And more importantly, when you, well, it shouldn't, no more needs to be said, but when you add to the book, you're in grave danger. You're in grave danger. But I would go as far as to say, when you make it all about the resurrection, you disrespect our Messiah and the sacrifice he gave. Because his blood that he spilled is the resurrection, or is the redemption, is the redeeming power of the Messiah, well, of Yeshua, of Yah. If the blood wasn't spilled, Yah wouldn't have accepted us back to him. So to make it all about the resurrection is blasphemy. So this is Paul, and Paul is just reminding us what Yeshua said. Verse 25. After the same manner also he took the cup, and when he had supped, saying, this cup is the New Testament in my blood. Do ye as oft as ye drink it in remembrance of me. For as often as you eat this bread and drink this cup, you do show Yeshua's death till he come. You do show Yeshua's death until he comes. Nowhere in our records are we commanded to commemorate the resurrection. But we are admonished, we are encouraged by the elders to hold fast to his death, that he shed his blood to purchase us back. This verse here, many people have been told that this is communion. There's no ancient festivals called communion in the Hebrew Bible. He wasn't telling them to start a new festival or a custom called communion. He was telling them, as often as you keep this feast, you do this in remembrance of me. That's what he's telling them. He's saying this on the same night he was betrayed. He's saying this on the same night he was betrayed. So he's telling them, as y'all sit down to celebrate these festivals, think of me, because my body was broke for you. He's not giving them a new festival communion. So let's get one more and we get out your way. To make your celebration all about the resurrection, you're adding to the book. I would have to ask my Christian brothers and sisters, who ordained you to add festivals? Who gave you the authority to add a holy day? Who gave it to you? So this is Hebrews 9:16, and this will be our last one. For where a testament is, there must also of necessity be the death of the tester. So yes, his resurrection is indeed part of the process. Without the Messiah's resurrection, yes, we wouldn't have an inheritance. But him dying and shedding his blood is much more important, because Yah could have saw fit to put him to sleep, but if no blood is shed, there's no remission of sin. So Sunday morning, you're going to hear a lot of preachers talking about the tomb is empty, happy Resurrection Sunday. You won't find any Resurrection Sunday in any of the scrolls. So that's it. I pray that this has been enlightening to somebody. Again, this is not bashing. This is trying to bring all our brothers and sisters away from paganisms. There's no way you can call any of these customs of Easter holy. You can't think for one iota, I hate to use a Greek term, but you can't think for one jot, one tittle that Yeshua or Yah or the angels are happy with your celebration. You can't think one iota, one tittle that the angels are celebrating with you on Sunday morning about a resurrection, because it's not authorized. It's not in the scriptures nowhere. We celebrate and we remember his death, the blood that was shed for us, because that's what we're commanded to do. Passover is an eternal feast of the Most High. So I pray those who are going to get this information and do your own research. I hope this has been enlightening. Again, this resource I read from is Two Babylons. You can get it online, download as a free PDF. I pray that this someone got some understanding. I give all honor to my King, my Savior, Yeshua, for the blood he dripped for my atonement. I thank Yah for saving me, for sending his only begotten Son. Um, Again, please do not take my word for it. Get these resources, replay the scriptures, dissect them for yourself. Don't rely on any man's testimony. Do not rely on any man's research. Do your own research. And with that, I say, Shalom, Israel. Shalom, shalom.